Hey, everybody. We are about to continue in the guidebook unit, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. The purpose of this video is to learn about the time in American history where some colonies accused people of being witches, which will help you better understand the story. As always, while we're working, make sure you have your handout ready and a writing utensil to answer any relevant questions. So, in the time of the colonies, many people were fascinated with the idea of witches. However, this fascination could sometimes have deadly consequences. In this lesson, we will answer the question, who was accused of being a witch in colonial America? In order to understand how witches fit into colonial society, we first have to take a step back and answer the question, who were the Puritans? Because the Puritans, as we know, were a religious group of people who controlled much of society in Connecticut in the 1600s. Knowing this helps us understand how we got into some of the issues with witchcraft that we'll learn about. The Puritans followed the Bible carefully, and they thought that everyone should be a part of their church. They often punished those who did not follow or attend their church by banishing them, or worse. It's important to understand that the Puritans thought that the devil was active in many people's lives and that he could show up in many different ways. They often blame the devil for any hard times, such as poor crops or sickness that happened to their town or to their family. Because the Puritans had such a strong dislike for anyone who was different and didn't fit into their strict society and rules, they were often quick to accuse those people of being witches, of working with the devil. So, what happened if the Puritans suspected someone of being a witch? Three things happened. First, someone in the town made an accusation or claimed that somebody was a witch. Next, this person, usually a woman, was put in jail and given a trial where a judge listed the evidence against her and tried to get her to confess to being a witch. Finally, there was a sentencing where the accused person learned her punishment for being a witch. The American colonies in the 1600s were not an easy place to live, and life was filled with daily challenges, including tough weather, lack of food, sickness, and hostility or tensions with other groups of people. Because they couldn't fix or explain many of these issues themselves, many colonists looked for someone to blame for these problems. They often targeted anyone they knew was different in some way. Maybe they didn't go to church. They were poor. Maybe they wore torn or raggedy clothing, or they lived alone without a family. Maybe they were homeless. It was also considered suspicious if someone was especially friendly to children. That went against Puritan beliefs. All of these were considered signs that a person might be working with or for the devil and was therefore a witch. So now you're ready to sum up what you've learned so far about potential witches in colonial America. We can pause this video for you to answer any relevant questions, and when we're ready, we may continue. To summarize, you probably remembered that the Puritans accused anyone who seemed different of being a witch. That usually meant that they didn't go to the Puritan church, that they wore clothing that looked tattered or old, that they lived alone or didn't have a home at all, or maybe that they just treated children in a way that seemed too nice. They were suspicious to other people. Trials for people accused of being a witch were unfair. For one, witches were not given any representation, meaning they had no lawyer or anyone on their side in court to help defend them. Also, it didn't take much evidence to find someone guilty of being a witch. Evidence might be someone just claiming that they saw a ghost of the witch at night in their house, or stating that they felt that the witch was pinching or hurting them, even though they weren't around. The worst part of the trials was that the accused people were sometimes even tortured to try and get a confession or subject to unfair or harmful tests to see if they were truly a witch. For example, many people believed that witches could float in water, while people who were not witches would sink. So, to test if someone was a witch or not, they would often tie their hands and feet together and throw them in the water to see what happened. To sum it up, trials for people accused of witchcraft were extremely unfair and nothing at all like the trials we see in our courtrooms today. Now you're ready to consider the information you've learned so far. Knowing the ways in which a witchcraft trial was unfair for the suspect, how might the courts have made these trials more fair? Pause this video and answer any relevant questions on your handout. When we are ready, we will continue. To review, trials for people suspected of being a witch were unfair, partly because the defendant, or the person being accused of being a witch, was not given a lawyer or anyone to help him or her in the courtroom. So legal representation would have been an improvement, but they didn't get that. Also, courts could have had required evidence that was based on facts, more than just what a witness claimed. They could have required tangible or touchable proof that a person was a witch. Even that would have been impossible to provide. They didn't have that, though. Instead, it was just by word of mouth. Finally, of course, courts should not have used torture to force a confession, which often led people to confess to the crimes that they did not commit. They also should not have relied on unfair tests, such as the floating test. So let's say you were accused of being a witch. What was the punishment for these people? The punishment or sentencing for witches ranged from mild to severe. Sometimes a person found guilty of witchcraft was simply banished from the town, meaning he or she wasn't allowed to live there anymore. However, many unlucky people were actually executed or killed for being a witch. Between the years of 1647 and 1797, in Connecticut, approximately 36 people were charged with witchcraft. 11 of these people were charged and executed, and the rest ran away or were banished. So, knowing the facts about who is accused of being a witch in colonial America and why they were accused will help you as you navigate through this unit, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. As you read, you'll see examples of this mysterious witchcraft come about. By watching this video, you are one step closer to becoming an expert on witchcraft in colonial America.